The fact of the matter is, carbon dioxide is lower now than it has been for in almost the entire history of the Earth. And it is colder now. It's called the Pleistocene Ice Age for a reason. Yeah. It is colder now than it has been through almost the entire history of the Earth. There is no evidence whatsoever that carbon dioxide is the control knob of the Earth's climate. This is what they are contending. We are doing an amazing job of replenishing the CO2 back to the air and water where it came from in the first place.
And how are we doing that?
All the CO2 we are emitting from burning fossil fuels came from the atmosphere and the oceans in the first place. It was there. Life used it and stored it as fossil fuels.
Right.
All the fossil fuels were made by life, and they're full of carbon. And that carbon is now being put back into the atmosphere by our burning of those fossil fuels. It's where it came from. That's why CO2 is so low now compared to historical levels. It was 6,000. It was 4,000. It was 2,000. It was 1,000. It was 500. And it went to 180 during the most recent glacial maximum, only 30 parts per million above the death of plants. We are life's salvation. We are replenishing the CO2 back into the liquid and gaseous spheres, the atmosphere and the oceans, where it had been locked in rocks and fossil fuels for billions of years.
What are you guys going to do when our ocean level rises?
Now you're full of shit. Sit down. I'm going to answer you. I'm going to answer. Shut up and sit down.
No way.
Sit down.
No.
If the water on the planet rise up 10 feet, that means the southern part of the United States is gone. England is gone. Most of Europe is gone. And I can go, most of Central America is gone. And I'm jealous of the Vice President, Gore. I am jealous he came up with a scam before I did. Because the financial institutions, the banks of this world know it's not going to happen. Otherwise, you couldn't get a goddamn loan in London. You know those 30, 40-year mortgages? The world will be over by then. Is Barclays Bank going to give you a motherfucking loan? With the greatest respect, ma'am, it's the greatest fraud that's been perpetrated on mankind this century.
The climate right now is no warmer than it's been many times throughout history. Our baseline is now the lowest that carbon dioxide has been in 600 million years. As far as temperature change, the IPCC's first report of 1992 showed that the medieval warm period was warmer than the present. Well, this didn't fit the narrative. So by the time the 1996 report came out, it was a completely contrived graph called the hockey stick. So what they did was they got rid of the medieval warm period and the Little Ice Age. And so instead of the graph doing this, they flattened it out, and then they added instrumental record on the end that looks like it's going way up. The point is that the people that are calling them out on it are not getting the media coverage. You know, because look, at this point there's billions of dollars going into the whole climate change narrative.
If it costs $50 trillion, as some of your colleagues have testified, to become carbon neutral by 2050, how much is that going to lower world temperatures?
So every country around the world needs to get its act together. Our emissions are about 13% of global emissions.
Yeah, but if you could answer my question, if we spend $50 trillion to become carbon neutral in the United States of America by 2050, you're the Deputy Secretary of Energy. Give me your estimate of how much that is going to reduce world temperatures.
So first of all, it's a net cost. It's what benefits we're having from getting our act together and reducing all of those climate benefits. We're seeing.
Let me ask again. Maybe I'm not being clear. If we spent $50 trillion to become carbon neutral by 2050 in the United States of America, how much is that going to reduce world temperatures?
This is a global problem, so we need to reduce our emissions and we need to do everything we can.
How much, if we do our part, is it going to reduce world temperatures?
We're 13% of global emissions.
You don't know, do you?
So we're 13% of global emissions.
If you know, why won't you tell me?
If we went to zero, that would be 13%.
You don't know, do you? You just want us to spend $50 trillion, and you don't have the slightest idea whether it's going to reduce world temperatures. You're the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Energy, and you're advocating we spend trillions of dollars to seek carbon neutrality, and you can't, and this isn't your money and my money, it's taxpayer money, and you can't tell me how much it's going to lower world temperatures?
We had in Senate estimates last year, Malcolm Roberts asked the CSIRO, can you please give me a few scientific papers that prove human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming? And the CSIRO presented him with one scientific paper, and then it wasn't on the subject. So he asked them again, can you please show me that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming? Now, it's a trick question. We'll come to that. They couldn't. This is a question that I've been asking scientists around the world for 25 years. I've asked journalists this question. I've asked politicians this question. It's no wonder I get cancelled, because no one can show from the scientific literature that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming. Now, let's imagine that I'm wrong. And once I was wrong, but I was mistaken. But let's imagine I was wrong. And we say, OK, human emissions do drive global warming. Well, the total human emissions are 3% of the total emissions that we get on planet Earth. So if you can show that 3% of emissions drive global warming, you have to show that the 97% of natural emissions, which come from ocean degassing, don't drive global warming. That's never been shown. So we have built this whole empire based on something that cannot be shown. And in fact, you can show the opposite. The whole move with human-induced global warming has got nothing to do with the environment. It's got everything to do with deconstruction of the way we think and our society as a mechanism of unelected people gaining power. And I'm sick of it. And that's why I wrote this book, Green Murder. It's a full frontal attack on those who are leading the charge. We have been cooling down for the last 4,000 years. So if people say, oh, the planet's warming, well, it's all about when you start the measurements. If we look at the last 38 years, there has been no change in temperature. If we look in the last 150 years, we've had 3 warming periods and 3 cooling periods with a total warmth of about 0.6 degrees Celsius. Now, I wonder why it warms. I mean, 1850, what happened then? Oh, yes, that was the end of the Little Ice Age. Do you think it's going to warm or cool after a Little Ice Age? Of course it's going to warm. So if you start taking measurements from 1850 in the Industrial Revolution, we have been warming. If you take measurements from the medieval warming, we've been cooling. We've cooled about 5 degrees since then. If you take measurements from the Roman warming, we've cooled about 5 degrees. So as soon as someone tells you, oh, it's warming, the reply you give is, since when? We have been cooling down.
They have a huge $500 million scientific research lab. So we're down there and we're talking to all the goofball scientists. And he said 13,000 years ago, this was the temperature. 14,000 and 55,000 years ago, it was 2 degrees warmer Celsius than it is today. And they go, what? Stop. 55,000 years ago, it was 2 degrees warmer than it is today. All right. And I said, what about global warming? Simultaneously, all 10 scientists started laughing. All 10 PhDs from MIT, Caltech, Stanford started laughing.
Why did they laugh?
Because